Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet, and today we are going to be reading chapters 55 and 56 of Tower of God. So in the last episode, we had some reveals happening right at the end of the chapter when we saw Yuga, who's one of the teachers that was there, having some kind of conversation about stuff going on with what the regulars have been doing with this test. Lots of suspicious things happening. I have some context for that because of the comments on the video and some of the things that people have told me over on the Discord, but I don't really know what to make of it yet entirely. I kind of want to see it for myself. You know, I'm one of those people where I just want to know what it is when I get context for it in the actual thing. I'm also like not entirely sure if it's like spoiler territory. I don't know. I was thrown a lot of information with a lot of different names, and I'm not entirely sure how it would be useful to me at this point in the story to like understand the intricacies of the like great families and stuff like that, because I don't have a like direct context, with the exception of correcting me that Kun has actually like multiple siblings, specifically has more than one sister, so like they're not all Maria, there's also like another sister, so I need to know that in order to understand like his turmoil around all of that stuff going on. So that was a good correction for me to know about what's going on with the families. But other than that, there's like a lot of names of people telling me like what's going on with Kun's family and also Lorraine, which sure, but Lorraine wasn't really in it, so I don't know how that is connected. Yeah, like I'm not sure how much I should like take from what was said to me, because I do have an idea though about what the three eyes on the pin mean, and it makes sense, especially with someone like Endorsi. It's not like quite as many layers as it could have been, but I'm being intentionally vague here. Yeah, so a lot of things thrown at me, just like finer detail things that I'm not entirely sure what to do with the comments in my last reaction. So forgive me if I brush over that a little bit, because until I have like a direct and contextual reason to like have that in my brain, one, it's not gonna stick, and two, I'm not sure what me talking about it would have like a positive effect on this experience, because it doesn't seem to be related to the story. Maybe it is and you know something that I don't, but with the information that I currently have about what's going on with the story, I don't see the connection. So we'll put a pin in that information. It is noted. We'll loop back around to it when it becomes relevant. For now, we're going to have to deal with this interaction between Hansung and Yuga, because Hansung showed up to kind of interrupt this phone call message thing that Yuga was doing. So interested to see how that goes. We had Kun talking to Lororo about the note and some of his observations about what was going on with that test at the end, and with Ho and all of that. So also an interesting thing. And then of course we have Bomb trying to put together his team of people to help him go up the tower to take Rachel with him. So kind of in a transitional thing. Maybe in these couple of chapters we'll finally figure out who's going to pass on to the next part of this tower journey, because I thought we were going to deal with it in the last couple of chapters, but we deviated for a little bit. So hopefully we will find out who passed and who doesn't. I have an idea, but maybe it'll shock me. Probably will. I can't always predict what's going to happen in this series. But with that, let's get into episode 55. Okay, chapter 55. I am very intrigued to see how this confrontation turns out, because I feel like Hansung, for all of the jokes and kind of light-hearted atmosphere around him, I feel like he really does have a no-nonsense kind of mode, so we'll see how he deals with this. Also, they're calling this teacher Ren here, and I don't know if that's applicable, because I just started to figure out that his name's actually Yoga, so I'm just gonna go with rice ball, and then it's always applicable. Unless he like loses the costume thing, and then my reference won't make any sense at all. Ooh, that's true. I forgot that he arrived late. That's true, because at the beginning, Bomb like didn't have classes like everybody else because his teacher wasn't there yet. Good foreshadowing. Hello, giant eel. Why are we threatening to eat Hansung? Come again? Oh dear, okay, I was not expecting a straight out fight, gonna be honest. But okay then, what is the giant eel though? Are we controlling it? Or is there something else going on? Because we haven't like properly seen this teacher, because they're always in this costume outfit thingy, so we haven't like properly seen what they're like. Hansung seems unfazed though, so at least there's that. I still want to know who wrote the note. I feel like maybe it was the teacher, because I think I keep saying he. I don't know if that's applicable gender-wise. Like I remember that they were like stirring the pot of that conflict because of the conversation that they had with Ho, where they were like deliberately bringing up those insecurities that Ho had and like really pointing out that like Bam was the cause of those issues. So I think it's possible, but I also feel like it's maybe too obvious. I feel like I want there to be more layers to the conspiracies and stuff. I mean, I guess there are layers in that like now a teacher is clearly only here to put forward like their own motives, but I guess like sort of their own motives, the king's motives. It's complicated, I guess. Ooh, flashback. I like a good flashback, especially since like Kun is always like 3 steps ahead of me, so I appreciate the flashback. Ooh, leotard girl, who I'm still suspicious about because of the whole thing with Bam, but she's been pretty quiet since then, which also makes me uneasy. We haven't seen much of her. I like how she's going with that method. And it worked. Sometimes you just gotta Fonz it, you know? Is that an outdated reference? Do other people know who the Fonz is? I'm gonna leave it in. Just so that people can try. I'll see who's old enough to know who Fonzie is. Oh, is his hand all red because he tried to like hit the thing to make it work again? Oh, turning him into a cyclops seems oddly specific. Can you turn someone into a cyclops though? Because a cyclops isn't just someone who happens to have one eye. They're like a very specific creature that happens to have a characteristic of only having one eye. But it's not just like on the one side of their face, it's like in the middle. And then there's like other physical attributes that differentiate them. I know I'm thinking about this too much, but here we are. Good news is she seems to not like holding grudges. So maybe I've misjudged her, but I'm still suspicious. She seems to know what's up though. Saying that you don't hold grudges isn't the same as like not being competitive. Like you can be someone who like doesn't hold grudges and like get angry at people for like specific personal reasons, but that doesn't mean that she's like a good person. Just want to clarify what I'm thinking of when I'm like I'm still suspicious. Like I'm willing to accept that she isn't gonna hold a grudge against Bam, especially since it's Bam, he's a sweetie pie, so I understand someone not being able to be mad at him for a long length of time, but doesn't mean she's a good person. She could still do something awful in order to get up the tower. And I just really want to protect Bam at all costs. But at least she's letting them know about Ho, which is interesting. What does sharing that information gain her? It's also a very ominous panel to also have. I wonder if the reason is because they're both, like they're all wave controllers. So it's like Ho, but this girl who I don't know if I ever knew her name. It was probably in the list of like wave controllers. And then Bam, all wave controllers. So like is part of her reason for sharing the information is because if Ho fails, it might help her out a little bit. Per maybe haps. Ooh, one, I love the crossing paths that we have, but also just this X-ray effect with the hair. I don't know why I like it so much, but I do. See, Kun and I, similar wavelength. Am I justified in all of my suspicions? Maybe not. I should probably be less suspicious of people in this particular series. However, I would rather be ready for betrayal than have my heart broken. Just saying. I don't know. It's not even like to the point where I think that someone's gonna do something drastically evil or anything like that. Like I don't think that someone is suddenly going to turn out to be like the big bad of the series. I just feel like I'm constantly on the edge of just waiting for somebody to do something for their own interest. Like I feel like you don't get this far in the tower without being willing to do some awful things to get what you want. And we keep seeing that with other characters. And like, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be horrifically evil people. It just means that they're probably going to make decisions that put other people in like worse situations for their own personal gain. I don't know why I'm so insecure about that. For this particular chapter. Oh, so is that who was like spying on Ho? Because he says he has the room beside Ho's, and we've seen a few times of someone like opening the door and like being super like sneaky and stuff to like kind of see where Ho is going and like keep an eye on him. So is that because Kun wanted Full to do that for him? Lots and lots of layers. There's always more going on with Kun. I like, he's like, well, I bribed him, but anyway, he helped. That's what matters. Yeah, see, this is what I was thinking of. Like, because he came out to get the note, and then afterwards we saw like the door open, I think. Ah, so he found the note. I don't know how I feel about Kun going through his stuff. Like, there probably aren't like break and entry laws for regulars going up the tower, and they're just like staying in their little like dorm thing. It seems like we're crossing some lines with that. I know that Ho is like planning to do something horrific, and he did, and blah 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 blah, but also like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I don't like people in my personal space. Not because I have anything to hide, but just because I like don't like when people move things, because I have a specific place where everything goes and it's clean. You know, like I like to disinfect things and have them where they need to be, and then people come in and they move things and they touch them, then I get really anxious. I know that this says more about my problems, but I'm just like getting secondhand issues at the idea of Kun going through Ho's room. Okay, so he took the original and left a copy. Gotcha. Which is smart, because the original might have more clues than a copy. Although if he copies it directly, then maybe not. I don't know. I don't know entirely how his power works on like a really fine-grained level. I know that it copies things and it copies them very well, but I feel like there's probably still like a clear difference between like the original and the copy if you know what to look for. So she knew going into the test. Why did she still agree to leave where she was and talk to Ho then? Just seems like a misguided decision if you know that Ho is planning something to harm you in order to get to your friend, or whatever Bomb and Rachel currently are. Are there more layers to the plan? I hope there are, but she also got horrifically injured in this, so like what was the logic of that decision? See, I don't know if keeping it a secret is the best way, you know? I mean, I think it would have definitely changed the dynamic of like what was going on, because there's no way that Bomb would have left Rachel for even a second if he knew about this going into the test. So it definitely would have changed where he was at that given time, but like that doesn't greatly impact their team, because he didn't do anything when he was with Endorsey, and then the only time he did do anything was when he was with Rachel going up against Ho and then Quant. So probably would have been smart to stick together. I want to know where the logic is, Rachel. That's all I want. I want to know why we're keeping secrets, why we decided to go and talk to Ho when we knew there was danger, resulting in horrific and life-altering injuries. I just need some context. I don't think it is better for you to get hurt. Sorry. I think my frustration is coming out. I think I am more frustrated with Rachel than maybe I realized. If you get hurt, then it hurts Bomb. That's how caring about someone works. I'm just saying. And even if she's like, well, I would rather get hurt seriously instead of Bomb getting hurt seriously, I can understand the sympathy there. But like, what if you had worked together? That doesn't seem to cross her mind. It's like working with other people who just want to help her. You know, you see where I'm coming from? But I've also never liked Rachel, so even from like the very beginning, I was like, I see you and I don't like what I see. So maybe that's just coming out. I've seen nothing about Rachel that makes me want to enjoy her company. I feel a little bit bad for Kun though, like knowing all of this and knowing that he was probably going through so many things in his brain. Like he was probably so overthinking it, along with trying to think about what to do for his team and probably going through a bunch of other stuff. Like I feel like Kun always has like 20 different things on his mind at any given time, and like him probably going over and over this situation trying to find the best solution and just like continuously being limited because like he's not on the team and Rachel wants to keep it a secret, and you know he can't tell Bomb and get help through that avenue, and you know, does he tell some of the people that he knows that are on Bomb's team, or does he try to work out some stuff in the background? You know, like I feel like Kun was probably running little like simulation things in his brain trying to figure out what the best outcome would be, and I'm sure that like caused a lot of stress, even if he didn't show it. He's always like collected on the outside, but as someone who also overthinks a lot, I know that he was probably panicking under the surface. Who are we going to ask to help? Endorsey? Because we did have the little interaction in the cafeteria where they seemed to like put up with each other but not necessarily like each other. Hats? Wasn't Hats on their team? He got like, is he okay? A lot of people got hurt during that test, I understand, but Hats got like slammed into a wall, and I just need to know that he's good. Endorsey. See, called it. Is that why she took Bomb with her away from Rachel? Is that why she was like, let me take him with me, even though she didn't need to because she was going after the other fisherman? So, but she like took Bomb with her so that at least Bomb and Rachel would not be in close proximity to each other. So like if someone did go after Rachel, it would mean that Bomb wouldn't get injured, even though that didn't work out. I like how Endorsey is just like, nope, not interested. going to pretend like I don't want to be part of this. I feel like Dorsey definitely likes to be in other people's drama. Not because she wants to like get caught up in it necessarily, but I feel like she enjoys watching the drama happen. She just seems like the type, you know, the kind that would just like drop a piece of information that just like causes like a bunch of drama between people and then just like sit back and see what happens. I feel like she would just find joy in that. Interesting dynamic. Kun offering to help her. I think that Kun and Dorsey are like a really interesting two characters to have next to each other because they have some similarities, and I feel like possibly a similar-ish history in that like they both know what it means to grow up in a place where it's a very like competitive environment. Like I don't know a ton about Kun growing up and what his sort of dynamic was with his family other than like the couple of sisters that we've met. Like we know that his one sister he was really close with, but I feel like he also had a similar thing where there was a lot of competition and trying to prove yourself on like a constant basis. Probably not by killing people like in Dorsey, but I mean possibly. I don't know what Kun's family is like, but I feel like they have a lot of similarities between them, which I think is why like they don't mesh well together. Like I feel like their personalities clash because they're too much alike, but they're definitely a powerhouse if they end up working together, because you have a ton of skill, a ton of like intellect and strategic thinking and like being able to see things on like a macro level. And I just think that having those two characters together is kind of terrifying, but also I feel like could make a lot of significant things happen. I also think it's interesting that Kun is in shadow. Like we have Dorsey in like these really bright lighting, and then Kun is like shadowed, which makes me think that like there's probably more. I mean, obviously there's more to what like Kun is asking her, because like he's saying like, oh, just like don't let them meet because Bomb can't know that Rachel is Michelle Light, even though he does. But he's like, oh, he can't know that that's who she is, which is like the information that Dorsey knows, but like he also has a bunch of other motives for that, and I feel like Dorsey sees that. I think that's part of her hesitation to help out, like not only because she wants to have this facade of like not caring and doing her own thing, but I think also she knows that there's always more to what Kun is saying than what he's saying on surface level. I think she's smart enough to see through that. So I feel like whenever Dorsey and Kun talk to each other, there's always like layers that you have to dig through to like figure out what they're actually saying to each other. Oh my god. Kun going up to Lorraine. I just like how Lorraine is just trying to sleep and then Kun's like sneaking up behind him. Okay, so that's how we got Lorraine involved. I wonder how this relates to the whole Ho and going after Bomb thing. Ooh, are they gonna tell Quant? Is that part of it? So that he's like aware that something might happen, and that's why he ended up where Rachel was? Quite an act there, Kun. Of him just being like, let me just throw important information up into the air like I'm bragging. I feel like Quant can see through it though. I also think he's smart enough to see what Kun is, but he's just like planting the seed of that idea in like Quant's head, so like he's looking for those things. I mean, it did work out slightly in his favor. I want to know what went wrong though, because I don't think that Kun's plan would have ever involved Rachel getting injured to the point of not being able to walk. It's almost perfect. Again, Rachel horrifically injured, but I wonder if that's the plan or if she just made a bad decision. Because like for real, why did she go and talk to Ho? She could have just been like, when he was like, come out, but like, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I have to like monitor all of our teammates. Like I can't come out and help you. Or just like straight up been like, I don't trust you. Like, what's he gonna do? I don't know. It just seems like a weird decision to make when you know that your life is possibly about to be threatened. Okay, chapter 56. We just like left the fight between Yuga and Hansung. Like, are we gonna go back to that? Because I would like to see, just inquiring. I feel like this is one of those times where the pronouns are weirdly translated. Because it says her, which I assume is referring to Ho, but I've been told Ho is a he, but also warned that sometimes the pronouns just change around depending on who's translating it, so I will try not to get hung up on it. Yeah, I was like, I'm assuming this is not the outcome that Kun was predicting. I mean, yeah, Rachel was injured and Ho died, so I'm assuming that was not in the plan originally. Okay, that's a good point, that the note came before they actually knew what the test was going to be about, like all of the regulars. So it does make sense of thinking that has to be someone who would be in a position where they'd have some idea what was going on. And I'm just like now remembering that wasn't Yoga the one when all of the other teachers were like, I don't think team B has anything special. Like all of the really powerful people are on team A. Like it doesn't even seem fair to like Team B that they just don't have people at the same caliber as Team A. And then wasn't it Yoga who was like, I think they'll surprise you, which seemed like he knew that there was going to be more to it. Like I read it as him having a better idea of like Bum and like other potential people on the team that other people didn't, like maybe even in Dorsey, considering that we now know he has a connection with like her and all of that stuff with the three eyes and stuff. But it could have also been that he knew about the note and that other stuff was going on. It's a possibility. I also said maybe it was Hansung. I'm just saying, I did say maybe it was him, and considering that we now have this transition to Hansung and not Yoga, makes me think that maybe it was Hansung. I feel like I don't trust people anymore. I'm just like, it could be anyone. I like how faced with this giant eel thing, Hansung's just like, cute pet. He seems thoroughly unfazed by what's about to happen. And being told that he's about to be eaten. And Hansung's just like, cute. Ooh, is it going underground? Is that a thing that eels do? I'm just noticing that I don't know anything about eels and like their behaviors or how they function. Like I don't think I've ever seen a documentary or anything about how eels exist. It's a cool tactic though, because if they're underground, then it's harder to predict where they're going to attack from, but probably not possible, especially with like Shinsu and stuff. Wait, trying to join one of the 10 great families? Does that mean that Hansung isn't part of the great families? Which would be very distinctive for him, because I feel like most rankers are from the great families because, I mean, they get more training in general. I feel like they more easily are like invited to go up the tower because that's like how most of it goes. Like you're an irregular if you like force your way in. So I feel like it's more common for rankers to be part of the 10 families, where if Hansung really is as strong as people seem to say that he is, and he isn't part of one of the 10 great families, that would be a very interesting feature of him. I also feel like it kind of makes sense if Hansung like doesn't want Bam to go up the tower, because doesn't Hansung know that Bam is an irregular, and he's probably like worried about what that'll mean, because we know that they tend to cause a bit of chaos in the tower and they don't have the best reputation. They seem to be quite feared by most people, so it kind of makes sense if like Hansung is like, what if I stop this irregular here instead of like letting him go up the tower? And there's like an easy way to do that if he's just like, oh, if his only reason for going up the tower is because Rachel's here, then if we get rid of Rachel, then it doesn't matter. Like he'll probably stop. I'm also kind of excited at the chance of seeing what Hansung's abilities are, because we've only seen him drink coffee in like the room when he was like in charge of that part of the test. Like he didn't do anything. He just like sat there with all the doors. What is that? Does he have his own gianter eel? Is that like a thing of rankers that they can summon these giant eel things? Because I did not know that that was a characteristic. I like that they look smaller once they are exposed with like this giant eel thing coming out of nowhere. The symbolism. Ooh, I do not like that. I don't like that this is kind of like a creepy smile. I don't like that the lighting shifted. I don't like that he seems to be glad that Hansung is as powerful as that. I have a lot of not good feelings about this panel. Ugh. What is that? Are we also summoning more eels? Very unsettled. There's like arms and like what kind of looks like tongues, but I'm gonna assume they're not tongues. It's the smile for me. It's the smile and the glowing eyes. Ooh, it does look like they're tongues. Like they look like they have drool and stuff. So this person joined the Jihad family, which is one of the great families. So it was like that kind of what they were referencing with Hansung. They were like, why didn't you join one of the families? Like, is that something that is available to you when you're a ranker? I assume it is. Like if you're not already part, like you're not representing one of the great families while you're going up the tower to become a ranker, then I'm assuming that the great families would want to like adopt rankers into their family, because that makes them more powerful and like have more sway, like authority. I'm assuming that gives you other benefits. Like you're not going to threaten someone whose family has like more rankers than yours does. You know what I mean? So I'm assuming that is probably kind of part of it too. Like we know like Jihad like adopts people anyway that he thinks are like powerful warriors, so he seems like the princesses of Jihad that are not his biological family, but they're people that he like adopts and trains, and that's why he has like the power that he does. Part of the reason he has the power that he does. Ooh, there's that bead of sweat on Hansung though. He seems a little bit nervous now, which makes me nervous because I don't think we've ever seen Hansung unsettled. We've seen him angry at people who do not respect his coffee the right way, but never unsettled. Was he backing out of an actual fight? Is that what's going on? I mean, I understand wanting to retrieve the weapons because like the Green April is something that has not been with like the princesses of Jihad officially for a while now, considering that Anak has had it and grown up having it. And then if the Black March is also here, like if they know that Lady Yuri misplaced or gave away the Black March, then I'm assuming that the king would want those back because they're very powerful and like a symbol of like power and authority and stuff like that. Especially like Anak being like living proof that someone defied his rules. You know what I mean? Like Anak's mother leaving and having a child, those are things that are not allowed for the Princess of Jihad. So Anak being alive and existing and going up the tower means that there's like proof that princesses of Jihad can go against the rules of the king. And I'm sure that that makes her a target. We're helping? What does Hansung get out of helping Jihad eliminate Anak? That's my question. Like I understand him wanting to eliminate Bomb because of the whole irregular thing, but why Anak? Oh, okay, that makes sense though. I keep forgetting that the tower's like job is to find dangerous people. Like it's not just like a life or death game or whatever. It's like specifically to sort out people that are just like really dangerous. So if I guess I'm assuming that Kel, I'm like assuming a lot of this is like Hansung deciding that he wants to do specific things, but I'm assuming there's also some influence from Kel, who's just like stepping in and being like, these are the rules. Even if like not directly, like I'm not saying Kel necessarily is like calling Hansung up. Can you call? Probably. With the like cube thing. And like specifically being like, hey, you should get rid of Anak. But there's probably like rules to the tower. And while Kel isn't around to like fully manage his floor, he's like entrusting Hansung to uphold those rules and stuff like that. Oh, so you're the deep sea fish of the little arc name. Hansung is always like low-key terrifying. Okay, but like how does the author manage to make this, which is like a normal thing that this character looks, it's just like the part of their costume that they have, manage to make this smile look disappointing in this panel? Like how do I know that that's something that's happening? That like Yoga is disappointed in not being able to fight Hansung and that this is like the deal that he's been offered. How do you manage that? Like literally nothing about this smile is different from other times because it's like part of the costume, and yet I know that this character is disappointed. Is it because I have the context of the story? I feel like there's something about the panel. I feel like maybe it's the lighting like coming from the bottom, so there's like this little shadow on the top of it. Maybe it's because before this it had like the mouth open, which makes like the smile bigger, almost like manic. I don't know how they did it, but it seems like magic. Like a Hansung's just like, I would like coffee, please. I would also like to know what he's thinking in general about a lot of characters. There are a few he's in this series that I would like to know their thoughts. Why do I feel like they're communicating with just their eyes? I am torn though. I feel like maybe because I was like, Yoga or Ren writing the note would be like too obvious. I feel like maybe it was Hansung who was just like, how do I manipulate this to like get rid of two problematic people at once with like Rachel and Bomb. I wonder what they're gonna do with Anak though, considering that Hansung obviously doesn't want her to continue up the tower. So how is that gonna reflect in the like scores of the different tests and stuff? Because I don't know how long they're gonna be on Kel's floor before they continue on. Oh, so are we confirming that Rachel's an irregular? I wasn't sure if she was the one because I remember they said the one team had an irregular on it. I wasn't sure if it was Rachel, but I thought probably it was because she's like important to Bomb, but also like they went through the gate thing into the tower at like the same place. So I'm assuming they're connected in some way. Also like they were in that prison thing and I really want to know what that's about. I want to know why they were both in this place isolated. Also, why are we saying Ghost, right? That's his name. What does he have to do with it? Because saying two Jihads, so is Ghost part of that? Because I was like, Anak connected, yes. Is Ghost part of that? And then there's like Endorsi, who's also Princess of Jihad. But just kind of basically pointing out that there's like a lot of special people at this particular time. And I agree. There's a lot of weird things coming together at this one point. There's a lot of dangerous people. Yes. Maybe too many? Seems to be what Lororo is thinking. And he seems to want to stir the pot with allowing Rachel to be in the next round. I mean, that was the point of Kun talking to him, but Lororo seems to be, I don't know, weirdly like an outlier in the rankers that we've seen. So does Lady Yuri though. I feel like she's a little bit like renegade, but Lororo seems to have like, I don't know, more empathy for the regulars going up the tower. And he also seems like a little bit more like opposed to some of the stuff that the tower does and rankers and that kind of a thing. Like, I'm not saying that that means that he's necessarily a good person, but I feel like he's more aware, maybe not more aware of the like kind of shady stuff that goes on, but he seems to be more empathetic to it, which I mean, like, just because you empathize with something doesn't mean that you're going to do anything about it. But I feel like a lot of the rankers are very detached, like probably intentionally, because you can't deal with that kind of stress constantly without it doing stuff to you. Like, I'm sure it's probably easier to like not get attached to the regulars when you know that they're going to get seriously hurt and probably get killed and that kind of a thing. Like, if you're used to being around violence and people betraying each other and stuff like that, it's probably easier to just disconnect and not be emotionally part of the situation. But I feel like Lororo can't help it. Like, I feel like he just naturally empathizes with stuff and he doesn't really know what to do with those emotions. I feel like Hansung definitely is unsettled because there's more going on than maybe he was prepared to deal with. You have like kings and stuff getting involved on top of all of these people, like dangerous people being participants in the tower. Oh, is that what's happening? Instead, are we like somewhat looking forward to the idea of having a full-out confrontation with someone really powerful? With an upper echelon ranker. Are there like levels to the rankers? I'm not gonna be able to know that. Look, y'all leave me messages all the time about the terms of like where people fit in the hierarchy of the different floors, and it's not going to stick in my head. The specific terms. I know like the basic structure. Like, I know that like Lororo and the other rankers are like bottom-ish. I guess like regulars are the bottom. And then there's the rankers, like Lororo and stuff. And then there's like Hansung. And then there's like Evankel. And then there's the eel thingy that Bam made the contract with so that he could use Shinsu. Pretty sure that that's like the structure. So I know where people fall in the structure. I don't know what the terms are. So if there's going to be a bunch of terms about like where exactly the rankers fit, I'm going to be lost. And y'all are just going to have to be okay with that. I'm apologizing now because it's not going to stick in my brain. I totally got sidetracked that we don't know what the results are because there's been so much going on. I spent like 4 whole chapters waiting to figure out who passed these tests, and I didn't even realize most of the time that that's not what was happening because there's just been things to distract me. See, the switch, I don't trust the instant switch between like serious Hansung and chibi Hansung. Never have. Oh, that's ominous. The tsunami. I don't know what that's gonna entail, especially since we're getting close to the end of the first season. Oh, the anticipation though. And it's the end. So I definitely got distracted by all the things that have been going on because we have spent a bunch of time after the test ended not knowing what the results were going to be. I mean, again, I have some idea of who is going to pass and what the results are going to end up being, but I feel like there's so many more like important things being introduced. Like, I feel like up to this point it's been a little bit episodic in the sense of like contained stories because there's a specific set of tasks or tests or puzzles or whatever that the regulars have to solve, and that's been the format. And it's been really good about just like introducing world building stuff, letting us learn about the different characters that are important and kind of lay the foundation. And I feel like now that we're gearing up towards the end of the first season, it's starting to add some complexity to the conflict with like introducing like the great family is starting to get involved with stuff and the interests of like the tower and the rankers, and having there be some like ambiguity about who you can trust and what people's motives are and things like that. And I feel like one of the key things that's going to happen is that we have Hansung and Lororo that are like on opposing sides, because Lororo has been like, I think I'm going to help Kun with Bam and Rachel passing up the tower, and then you have Hansung who is like actively trying to prevent that. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see, because we know that they have had moments of like butting heads before this point, but a lot of the time it's been like Lororo backing down from it a little bit because he knows that Hansung is like has more authority than he does, so he's willing to kind of take a step back if Hansung like really puts his foot down about it. Whereas like now I feel like Lororo is embracing that kind of confrontational attitude that he has and is leaning into those differences that those two characters have. I want to know where the whole deal between Hansung and Yuga, don't really know what his name really is, but what that kind of deal is going to entail. Obviously Hansung like tentatively allying himself with Jihad vaguely. We know that apparently it seems like he doesn't have a direct connection to any of the 10 great families, so that might make Hansung a little bit of a wild card, but he seems to be at the moment willing to take the help of someone who is part of Jihad's family to get what he wants. So just like a lot of different things happening, and I'm just like have like lots of questions. I feel like the whole eel thing that like the rankers seem to be able to do, I wonder if that is what like the thing that Quant was kind of on the verge of doing, and Lororo was like kind of panicking about that being what was about to happen. Like I wonder if that was the ability, because introducing a creature like that would definitely cause a lot of chaos against a bunch of regulars that like just have basic weapons, if that. So I wonder if that was what that connection is, if that's like a thing that rankers are able to do, or if it's only rankers of like a certain level. Not sure, I'll find out eventually. I hope you enjoyed reading those chapters along with me. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you miss the next time I post a Tower of God video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!